Hi everybody, hope you're doing marvelously well. We're Big Bad and back at Sunset Sound Studio 3, one of the best rooms in the world and easily my favorite tracking room. We have 3 songs that we're going to be doing today with the rather wonderful Mr. Marc Martel. The drummer is Rob Humphreys. He is a great drummer that is relatively new to me, so this is going to be a lot of fun. My old friend and old bandmate, Mr. John Button on bass. John, as I'm sure you know, plays bass for The Who, has played with Shakira, Sheryl Crow, and a million other people, and we use him a lot on sessions. Of course, Marc Martel is the singer and the piano player, but I have to say, I'm very, very excited because I'm working with a very, very old friend of mine, Mr. David Levita on guitar. David is a sonic genius. He comes up with really creative ideas. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But today we're going to concentrate on the rhythm section, on the drums and the bass. So we'll talk you through the drum setup. We'll get Rob to play a groove. You can have those multi-tracks to listen to, and we'll break down how we recorded it. Hitting a bit hard at the moment. Yeah, 2 to 3 dB of compression. God bless America. Boosting some 50, but we're on a pair of NS10s and Prax, so you don't hear anything. God bless it. Compression. Which LM76 is it? Oh, I see. Yep, great. think I like it just in bypass. So this is the versed mic, yeah? Yeah. All right, we've got all the mics except for the toms. Pretty much typically the only thing we do. So let's hit that floor tom first. I want to see how bad that ring is. No, it's good. In fact, actually, can you take the dampening off the head if it's just a quick? Is that going to be a pain in the butt? Is there any way to split the difference? The bottom mic is nice, the top one. Can you hear what I'm hearing? This is the bottom. That's just boom, boom. The top is going boo, boo, but the bottom's in. So it's just the top is uneven. That's better. Hold on a second. That's much better. Play in the kit. Give me just a kick snare, hi-hat, floor. Can I hear the rack, please? Cool, I think we're pretty perfect. It's just that rack. It's just got too much of a tone. It's very, it's you know what I mean? It's very much a singular tone, so it's going to sort of dominate. It's going to seem like a random kind of bass note playing every time it plays. The floor is great. It's got body. It's a little wrong, but in a right kind of way. We can hear some bass for a second. Hey, John, we have a spare input that we had for a Sans amp, which we're obviously not using. We could do that for the DI out of the amp, just for schnitz and schniggles. So the first channel we have up here is the talkback mic, which of course was the AKG 414, which was set in Omni. We print it, but we print it direct out of the channel pre-fade. So I can turn the fader up to hear people talking, and then of course I can bring it down. It just prints directly from the mic output here, straight from the gain. No EQ, flat as a pancake, awesome sounding mic, really, really great. The D112 inside the kick drum has some 50 boost, and there's actually 4 dB of it. A lot of cut at 400, because you know, typically I like to remove about 350, 400. And a little bit of boost at 7K, just to give it, I mean, the D112 tends to be my most modern sounding mic. So if you solo that, you're going to hear it's snappy. Now, don't get me wrong. This is an old school kit. It's a Radio King. I think he said it was built in 1955. So it's an old sounding kit. The whole kit is really old. So you're not going to get like modern snappy drums. And this is not what we're doing here. We're doing a rootsy Americana kind of sounding thing with Mark. We've got Joe Bonamassa playing on it, got Jared James Nichols playing on it. It's got to be like, have some girth, have some dirt. The D112 also has compression with a DBX 160, and it's not the fancy VU version. It is the one over there. All right, next up is the FET mic, which was on the outside of the kick, and that's a Neumann FET 47. It's a couple of dB of 50, a lot of 800 cut here I went for. And because it was just too ooh, so I cut the 800 quite significantly. I've actually got 9 dB of cut. And then some boost at 5K, just try and get a bit of snap. The Coles I went nuts on. I got 6 dB at 50. I've got 2 dB cut at 400, and I left the top alone. So that actually already has got a lot of oomph, being a ribbon mic, and being pulled back significantly from the kick drum, allowing the low end to develop. But I really went crazy on it. So if you bring that up on the blend, you're going to hear a lot of low lows. Snare top, we had 100 hertz boost, about 4 dB, and 10K. Also, I am going into an 1176 for compression and the Pultec. So the Pultec there has got some 100 hertz boost and some 10K as well. So really nice, smiley, kind of happy face on that snare top. Snare bottom is 100 hertz boost again, 4 dB of that, and 10K boost, just 2 dB of that. The floor tom, now the floor tom top has got 100 boost, just a little bit, 400 cut again. Same thing on the bottom mic, 100 hertz boost, 400 cut. But remember, the bottom mic, which is pointing up, is phase reversed. So you have, so the waveforms are being recorded accurately in phase. Same thing with the rack, exactly the same EQ and cut, 100 hertz boost, 400 cut. The rack top, I actually put a 5K little boost on because I wanted to hear a little bit of stick on it. It was like when he first tuned it up, it was just kind of He then improved the tuning a little bit, and with the 5K on it, just kind of snap, it just got a little bit of bite on it. Went really nicely. The Mono 67 is one of my favorite mics. That's the mic up against the wall. I do have a distressor on it, which we sometimes set on nuke, and we did do that, but I didn't engage it. So actually it's completely flat with no compression on it. The hi-hat, the EQ's engaged, but there's not actually any EQ move. I think I went to do it and then didn't do anything. But regardless, 57 and 451. I'm favoring the 57 a little bit over the 451. I want some more snappiness, more high-end brightness, I'll put the 451 up. If I want more mid-range, I favor the 57. And typically it's 57 here and 451 underneath. Overheads, no EQ, no compression. That's all of them, because I just want an accurate view of the kit. And if I want to then later EQ and compress in a mix, I can, but I like it to be an accurate representation of the drum kit. The high rooms, no EQ, no compression. Low rooms, no EQ, no compression. The mono room, which was the Verst mic, the Altec mic, no EQ, no compression. We did have a compressor ready to go, but as you can see, it's in bypass. I just, it was fun, but then I realized I like the sound of it. I don't want to commit to something that I can do in 4 nanoseconds with a plugin. So these days, I'm finding, with the exception of maybe the snare, which had a little bit of an 1176 on it, and the kick D112, which has a little bit of a 160 XT, with the exception of those couple of things, I don't compress much. And to be fair, Rob Humphries is a pretty even sounding drummer. So there wasn't a lot to do, but yeah, kind of a less is more on the compression. And then the only other thing with the bass, which you were hearing with John, is we did run, where it says bass sans amp here was just the DI from the back of the amp. We decided we wanted to hear what it sounded like running the DI off the back of the amp head. The amp and the DI themselves, no EQ, but there is compression on it. But we didn't do any EQ on the console at all. The compression on the DI is actually a DBX 160 VU, so that's the VU one, going into an 1176. It's 3-to-1 on the bass DI on the 160, but then it's catching the occasional peak at actually limit on 20-to-1 on the 1176. The bass amp has a little bit of EQ, of a little extra 100 on it from a Pultec, but I did have some compression on it here using the distressor here. A little bit aggressive, 6-to-1, fastest release, attack. It was doing a little bit here and there. We did have a floor tom EQ ready to go, but we didn't use it. It actually was out. So there you go. Quite a relatively simple setup, but ultimately the mic pre's in this console are phenomenal. Everything about the signal chain here is just really, really clean. There's no noise to it, but there's definitely some girth. This console's special. This is the console they put in late 70s, early 80s. This is the console that did all the Prince records that were done here. This console's made a heck of a lot of incredible sounding records. It's a great, great room. And the other thing is, I don't know how many sessions we've done in this room. I mean, maybe 50 different artists.
Yeah.
So, you get used to knowing where to put the mics and,
Right.
It's acquired knowledge.
Yeah.
It's very acquired knowledge. But that console just has a sound.
Totally.
It just makes everything, it sort of just rounds off the transients really nicely. But that snare, when you detuned it a little bit, it became special. Or was it, was it the ring? Is that the difference?
No, what I did, there's like a trick you can do. Where did I do? I cut out another head, and then you detune 2 lugs.
So 2 lugs out?
Yeah, they're totally out.
Oh, wow.
And then you over tighten the snares, and then it kind of does this like gated,
nice,
like a natural,
it's really, really cool
thing. So that was for the last tune.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just a trick.
So tell us about the snare.
So this is I honestly don't even know a whole lot about it. It's a hammered bronze drum, a Ludwig drum, that I got used at Guitar Center.
You can tell the story. They didn't know what they had.
Basically, I went to one of the stores here in LA, or the only store here in LA, and it was on the used rack, and I thought I knew what it was when I saw it, and I saw the price, and the price was a lot less than what I thought I would normally go for. And I looked a little closer, and it was totally mislabeled. And so I went over and talked to a guy, and I was like, tell me about this drum. Like, what's the deal with this drum? And just like trying to give him an out, like, so he could figure out that it was a mistake.
Yeah.
And I wound up totally taking advantage of them and buying the drum for a lot less than what it's worth.
Yeah, mistakes happen, but it's a gorgeous sounding snare. What I like, I love with snares. I mean, they're phenomenal. My Supraphonic I've used by, tune it up, it's one sound, tune it down. That's the thing about love, is they're so versatile, aren't they?
Totally.
We had 3 different snare sounds on this song. On
Yeah.
these songs.
Yeah. You can all of the above. Tune it up, tune it down.
And being brass, you
tricks.
can probably get full metal on it if you want. Just make it aggressive.
Totally. Yeah, you definitely could. I mean, I've had it for 10 years and
Wow.
done just about everything with it.
Well, I'll give you an extra $50 for what you paid for it. And tell us about the kit.
So this is a 55 Radio King, which is a Swingerland.
Beautiful.
And it was a total Craigslist find, from a
Amazing.
dude in Silver Lake. So
How big's the kick?
it's 24 inches. So it's 24, 13, 16.
24, 18, 24?
I think it's, I think 24, 18 or 16. I actually don't even know.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah. I mean, I probably record with this the most,
Yeah.
I have 3 recording kits and this one comes out the most.
It's absolutely gorgeous. It's been a blast today.
Yeah. And the pineapple decal on the front came from just an extra one that I had that didn't make it on my wall at home.
And then Istanbul cymbals.
Yeah, these are Istanbul AGOPs. It's just mainly what I own and what I like to play. They're all different. Like this is a 22 jazz ride, but it doesn't sound like any other 22 jazz ride from AGOP. They're all everything's handmade, and you just I went and found the ones I liked, and so
We were teasing him off camera about the fact that he must be really rich.
yeah.
Because Istanbul, they're amazing cymbals, but they're not cheap. Have you been collecting them over the years?
It's been a long time. I mean, I have a lot of them, and a lot of them don't, they don't make it. They're my entire life. So
Amazing.
yeah.
So we're still recording. So let's. Can we hear it? Can you play a couple of different grooves?
Let me put this guy on. This is a root. Have you seen these guys? These Roots
No.
EQs. It's just like a great way to muffle drums. It's just a really thin piece of fabric.
Roots EQ.
Yeah.
Pro drum.
Yeah. I think you can get them at Pro Drum. They've been kind of hard to find lately. I know maybe they just started. People figured it out and buying them up. But it's a good muffle sound.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you, David.
That's great. This is insane sounding.
Yeah, I put these rivets in myself.
But it's so contained.
Yeah. It's like a very like Tony cymbal, like a Tony Williams kind of. Not that I could ever sound like Tony, but
You must have listened to the Meters growing up.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Zigaboo's a huge influence.
I guess as soon as you started playing that groove, I was like, that's got to be Meters. No, this is amazing. We need to get one of these. Jazz Ride Special Edition.
Yeah, I mean, you got to try them because they're, like I said, they're all different.
Right.
And they're all great,
Yeah.
really. But you can like really hone in on something that'll fit your arsenal or whatever.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so this is pretty much what we always do, miking-wise. It's 67s overhead. All of them are 47 inches away, like so. If you bring all 3 together, the phase is accurate, and you get a really good view of the kit. Now, I know a lot of metal guys, rock guys will individually mic cymbals because they just want a cymbal sound. That's not what we're going for. We want an overall sound of the drum kit. So you could, in theory, just use these 3 mics. You wouldn't get as much of the kick as you want. But we've done a few fun things to counteract that. And one, of course, is the coals all the way down there. The ribbon, that gives the overall sound of the kit, but it favors the kick drum. So there's a FET there getting the sound of the head. And inside is the D112. But I think the funnest thing we've done is use this Altec, the salt shaker. And I don't normally do this or often do this, but We had it spare, so we're doing what is sometimes called the versed mic. I've heard it called lots of different things. Some of them actually quite rude when you think about the area of the anatomy it might be pointing at. Anyway, so this gives you a really cool mono sound of the drum kit. And the Altec itself really doesn't have a lot of low end and doesn't have a lot of high end. It's kind of narrow, so it's a really good trash mic to just bring up. We didn't really squash it particularly hard, but you can. I think I'd rather wait to do it on the mix. As far as the toms are concerned, 421s, top and bottom. The bottom 421, phase reverse, the same obviously on rack and floor. 57, top and bottom on snare, again, very typical, what we do. And then hi-hat is my favorite, which is a 57 with a 451. It doesn't have to be a 451, but a pencil condenser taped together. That is a total Dave Jordan trick. Honestly, I tend to favor the 57 on the hi-hat. I don't really like jazzy, funky hi-hats that go pss, pss, pss. I like the mid-range of a hat. But if you want that extra crispiness, you just dial up the 451 or whatever pencil condenser you're using. As far as the rooms are concerned, so yeah, M49's up high and a pair of 87s on the ground. And what we did is we just measured these two to the middle of the snare. So they're in phase with the snare. I tend to find that you have to offset the rooms a little bit, because of the symmetry, because of the way that the kick and the snare are. I've seen some people like Lowell and Blackbird actually puts one room mic here and then one room mic over there where Mark's standing. So it's like an equilateral triangle. And that could be a little bit more accurate, but honestly what I do is I just slightly pan in the left-hand side so it's a little bit more. But yeah, as long as they're in phase with the snare, you get a pretty good symmetry on the drum kit. Oh, last but not means least, the talkback, which is just a 414 thrown up in the middle of the row. It's on Omni and it's here so we can hear everybody talking and they can all hear each other. And we are trashing that out with a distressor and it just sounds absolutely fantastic. It's a wonderful sounding mic. John!
Sir,
How are you?
good.
That was a fun day.
Was a fun day.
Yeah.
That was very fun.
You got a new bass?
I have, well, yeah.
We've got a few new basses.
Well, maybe. Actually, yeah. Well, so
Tell me about this.
it's made by Carrie Norstrand. It's called, I think this is pronounced Asenonics. I think it's an African cat. So everybody just calls it a cat bass. It sounds super cool. It sounds like a kind of retro-y pawn shop bass, which I love, except that it works and it plays in tune.
And it's probably even all over the neck as opposed to like dead notes.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's got these super cool. These are the pickup selectors that select the different pickups. And then this is like a tone shaping thing. So there's like flat and then like a the low pass that runs off some treble. This does a little more treble off, and then there's like a mid scoop.
Fantastic.
And then you can push them all in, and that sounds super cool.
It's great.
Yeah, it's a fun bass.
And what I like about it, can we hear a little bit of it? Play it for us.
Maybe.
What I love about it for a guitar player is it's got a skinny little guitar player's neck.
Oh, I think I have a little bit of that fuzz on there, a little distortion on there. Let's see. Here's the sound I used on the last song, with just a little bit of the highs rolled off. It's a really nice bass to play. It's so easy to play and sounds great.
And the last time you and I did one of these videos was about 4 years ago. And
everything was the same.
Everything was the same, but you know what? We didn't get any soundscapes. Can you give us a little, so can we hear some of the different sounds on the pedals?
Sure, yeah.
Just give us a quick rundown, because people were going, well, that's cool, but we didn't hear it.
Right. If I can remember how to work all this. That should be this vintage micro tubes, which is great, dark glass. I just have a tiny bit on there, but it'll do. And then I've got this guy is pretty subtle as well.
Yeah, I remember those. The bass
That's
drives.
great. And then what's next? Let's see. Would be the Ren and Cuff, which is basically a big muff, and it's really fun. Next would be this Roadrunner.
What's the Roadrunner?
It's a copy of some vintage fuzz.
Right.
That's
Fuzz
made,
face?
Yeah, I think so. And then this guy is like, it's called a blower box. It's basically a rat. That's a great one. It's super cool.
I've never heard anything like that. That's fantastic.
So that's my 5 distortions. They all have.
I love how you got 5 distortions and then
Right. And then we move on to I've got the octave. For certain things, kind of cool.
when somebody's asking you for a Moog kind of sound.
Yeah, or sometimes I'll blend it with a distortion, and that can be a really cool sound. Which would sound, I think I have some of those set up. So anyway, that's the octave bass. I think next would be the microphone. Which this thing does a million things. You can do like the or you can just make it
Instant rush.
Or you can make it do like a
Funky.
and a million other things. I think the chorus is next. This thing's great. Analog Man. So that's, yeah. And then I actually have, we won't even get it. We'll need like 3 hours to get into this sucker. So I keep this around. It does everything, yeah, everything under the sun. And it sounds really, really good. And sometimes I'll just bring this instead of all this on a session where I'm probably not going to do effects, but I have this just in case. And I don't bring
You do that when you're like turning up at a home studio or something.
Yeah.
How much space you're going to have.
Yeah, exactly. This thing sounds amazing. And it can do some things like if suddenly I wanted like a rotary speaker or something, I can just plug this in and have that.
And the local DI should.
Well, yeah. So, yeah, there's this whole. Actually, I should go over how this whole thing over here works. I think we went through it last time, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, so there's the Noble DI, which is a really nice tube DI.
You're usually using it flat. You're not boosting any bass or treble.
Correct. Yeah. It's, I mean, just like.
It sounded great.
Awesome.
Yeah, loved it.
And then I've got this Sonic Research tuner, which is nice because I can, it tracks my tuning while I'm playing. So I can always see, like, especially if I do some slide up way up here, I can see if I'm in tune or not.
Bend it.
Seriously, yeah. Yeah, so that's pretty nice. And it's really fast, too. Tracks all that.
That's great.
And then this is like a little kind of switching thing, which what that does, I can completely bypass all the effects over here that are going into this effects loop. And then I can take this effects loop and I can have it either be in both the DI and the amp or only in the amp, depending on whether I switch that like that, which is kind of nice because like distortion, I don't want it in the DI. because it sounds horrible generally, DI distortion. But if I was doing like a delay or something like that, or maybe a chorus sometimes, I'd want it on the DI as well. So I can choose that with a click of a button, which is really handy.
That is really handy.
And all of this allows me to do all that stuff fast.
So one last thing, the amping.
Yeah.
You recently...
Oh, right. I did a thing. Come, let's look. Let's look at the thing.
How did you find somebody that, or are these ready-made?
There is a website called fliptops.com.
Really?
And they have all kinds of replacement parts for these old Ampegs. And then they just make these because people want to do this. So maybe we should go over the fact that normally this head would be attached to the bottom of this.
Hence, flip top.
So when you're ready to go home, you flip this over, the amp's in here, and it goes down in there, which is really cool. But when you put it up here, then the amp is strapped to a 15-inch speaker, and it rattles sometimes. Well, only when you put a nice mic on it at Sunset Sound does it rattle.
Yeah.
So anyway, I decided to go ahead and take the head off of that thing, put it in this box separate so that it's not rattling on the cabinet.
This is really well made. It's like the original.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Fantastic. Do you know what year this is?
65, I think, or around thereabouts.
And yeah, we put a fet on it and just backed it off.
And you know what the amazing thing about this? I mean, it's on right now.
Yeah, it's super
Cranking.
Yeah.
It makes no noise.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that. So don't forget to download the multi-tracks of just the drum session at the end there. You'll be able to hear what we did. You can pretty much see how much of the sound is to do with these mic pre's and, of course, the room. I will say that the IK Multimedia Sunset Sound room emulations are absolutely amazing. They were all done in these rooms. So if you want that sound, go and check out that plugin. It is phenomenal. And thank you ever so much for watching. Have a marvelous time recording and mixing. Leave a whole bunch of comments and questions below, and we'll see you all again very soon.